Hi guys, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, people.
Do you know what? Do you know the one thing that I've realised that we haven't had in a while?
What's that?
Welcome guys to the podcast. Another day, another session. Now Jake's going to hit us with the full blown step up 2. Okay. I can't keep it straight, mate. No, we're not doing anymore. We're not doing anymore.
Cut the music. Cut it. That's it. That's it.
I'm going to go with the down tempo one. There's too much tempo. I need down tempo. I don't need up tempo. I need down tempo.
You know what's really nice is
it's exactly the same song.
Just slowed.
Whoa. All right, bro. Let's cut that out.
Right, let's lock in now. Come on, let's lock in. We've got a podcast to do, mate. We've got people to address. We've got things to talk about. Give us a rundown then, Lewis. What are we talking about today, my friend?
Right, let me just stop the music because I feel like I don't know. I feel like it's kind of cool vibes. I can lower it down a bit. I feel like we're at like 10 volumes cool, yeah. That's chill. That's chill. We're going to be talking about exercise selection and how to be able to effectively build muscle in the gym and what movements are right for your goals. Yeah. So like, any questions you guys have in terms of like, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? You can always ask your questions, but equally we're just going to run through them and just sort of select a muscle group and then talk about why we'd apply what and when and where and talk about the science behind it a little bit.
Let's do it.
Sound good,
Before we do that, do you want to give us a rundown of the week so far? How's your week been, man? This is a Thursday thing. How's your week gone this week? Since our Monday. How are we doing?
Week's been good, man. Week's been good. We're chilling. Just a little bit run down this week, but just through I think a mad few weeks previous. But yeah, other than that, all good. How about you, bro?
Yeah, I'm on that level. Obviously we're one coach down at the moment with Jamie being away, so having to do some extra classes, which I am never going to say no to because the vibes are up. But been long days, can't lie. Been a couple of long days, and I've just been looking forward to the end of the week, man. Going on holiday tomorrow, so I am sort of like having a bit of time. I say time to relax. I'm still going to be on my computer most of the time, but going to have some time to relax anyway.
At least you can chill in Peppa Pig world.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. There's a lot more to just 4 walls and a computer in front of me.
Are you going to be able to ride the teacups? Okay, because last time we got on the teacups, you had a mental breakdown, and
I don't think so. I think I may have some ongoing trauma related to those teacups, mate.
They're quick. They're quick, man.
I give this a pass this time.
Yeah,
I think. We'll go again. I
When
might
you're
do
in
it on the.
When you're in there, there's far too much tea in that cup.
That's rude.
You're in off season, mate. Like, would you prefer me to say there's not enough tea in the cup? It's built for a child, so one would assume
I thought you meant as in like gossip tea, not as in like size.
Get with the joke, man. Get with the
Sorry,
joke,
man.
Come on, keep
on a
up,
different planet today.
Do you want to go take a shot of espresso before we start?
Let me just go neck 5 monsters, please.
Yeah, please do.
No, I'm joking. Right, let's get back to the subject in question.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to select a muscle group, and then you're going to tell me what you think the right exercises are to train that muscle group and why, Jacob.
Okay, can I put a lot of personal preference in this? Obviously, with my own
you put personal preference in it. Yeah, you put personal
preference.
Personal preference is, if anything, preferred. So,
well, I'm going to give it to you, mate.
Okay, good, awesome. I wouldn't expect to
hit me with a muscle then. Hit me.
All right. So what I want to start with, because this is something that I really find is a muscle group that is, I would say, there's not a lot of knowledge in terms of how to effectively build them. And a lot of people question, am I doing the right thing to build them? And that is glutes, man. Glutes.
I thought you were going to say glutes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought you were
man.
gonna
Yeah,
say
glutes. So give me your breakdown on how you would give me one exercise first. Why you like it for glutes?
Okay.
What's your preferred exercise? If
I'm
you were like,
thinking for me, for glutes, it's something that obviously involves a hip hinge, I think, and I would probably gravitate to the glute drive. It sounds quite
yeah,
like like obviously you'd go for a glute drive, but for me personally, I'd go for a glute drive or hyperextensions. I get a mad like glute activation with a hyperextension. I feel like if I isolate my glutes, like with a kickback or some form of like isolation movement, then I don't feel it as much. Sounds really weird because that's the whole point of an isolation. Like you're isolating each muscle so that you feel it more. But I feel like for me, it's got to be a hip hinge, like a glute drive, a solid glute drive. Not even that heavy as well. Just focus on like a big squeeze at the top. That's
yeah,
for
I
me,
agree.
man.
I agree. I was having a chat with Chloe earlier today, actually, and I was saying that for a lot of people, glutes are one of those that you could get a lot of major glute development without trying to be too finicky with exercises. I think too many people put too much emphasis on exercise selection as opposed to just getting strong in a specific movement that targets the majority of the glutes themselves. So like a hip thrust movement of any kind. So like, you said there, the glute drive. Glute drive is awesome. Barbell hip thrust is awesome. Any kind of like hip thrust. There was a video I watched ages ago that was talking about EMG studies, which basically means that they connected loads of electrical signals and pads to specific muscles and got people to run through a select variation of exercises. And they found that the hip, any kind of hip thrust, whether that be a barbell, glute drive, whatever it may be, because you actually run the glutes through the full range of flexion, extension, and contraction, you actually get the highest payoff for the glute max doing a hip thrust over anything, and by quite a large margin. So it's like almost 90% just glute through doing any kind of hip thrust.
Yeah.
So I think if someone was to just like persist and just get mega strong in a hip thrust, and if they were to do that on its own, their glutes would pop. Right? But I feel like most people, and I don't know whether you join me on this, put too much emphasis on a variety of glute exercises. There's like so many exercises on their plan that they like have to like speed through stuff. So like never really spending enough time on a hip thrust to be able to truly get strong in it, which would correlate over to be able to develop huge glutes,
It kind of goes back to that sort of like basic rule of like more doesn't always equals better. I feel like people will be like, oh, I'm doing a glute workout today, and then have like 7 different variations that all target the same area, but they're all just different, and they never really sort of get to a point in all of them where they're like, oh, I can go like really heavy, but still have quality reps. They're kind of just like not, I wouldn't say mediocre, but they just don't push themselves to like the full extent across all those exercises. Whereas like you said there, if you just pick one, like a glute drive, which is why you see so many like strong women in the gym with like plates stacked on the side of their glute drive because they've just gotten better with the movement. So yeah, if you can just pick one, and it's like kind of like what C-Bum said. I remember you came into the office one day and you were like, sort of like C-Bum's like ideology of training is like, don't always feel like you have to like progress all the time. Just focus on breaking down the movement, doing it nice and slow, getting like a good squeeze, contraction, and stretch, and you're pretty much fine. And this is quite rash, but we were talking about sort of like the old school era of bodybuilding. Like some of these guys would train like once or twice a week, but they would get like jacked because they would just get good at a movement. Obviously, that is a more extreme case, but it is the same with literally anything. If you can just get good at a movement, you're going to get a lot more progress from that rather than having 20 different things spread across your week that you're doing like fairly average on all of them with, It's like quality over quantity at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah. There was a time when me and Maddie were doing powerlifting during lockdown because there were no members coming to the gym because we were in lockdown, and there was our deadlift day consisted of 2 movements, which was sumo deadlifts and just heavy barbell hip thrusts. honest to God, mine and Maddie's bunders got mad.
Got wham.
Honestly, after lockdown, I went on a night out with my mates, and I told Maddie about this. Went on a night out, and then I take pride in my upper body. I think I look good upper body wise, like muscle tissue wise. And I was on the dance floor, and this girl tapped me on the shoulder. She was there like, "Yeah, your ass is banging," and I was like, "My ass of all things, really? Like of all things, like I." Can you not see my arms again, or my chest,
My chest,
my back? But actually, I remember then like looking, and I was like at progress photos, and I was like, "Holy shit, dude! My glutes have developed massively." The only reason why we were really doing it at the time was because both me and Maddie struggled with the lockout of the deadlift, and obviously it's a hip thrust at the top. So we were like, if we do heavy hip thrusts, then we'll get better at deadlifting, and it did work. We just did 2 movements, and yeah, honestly, the most glute development I've ever had. Period. So I think if people were just to like take the exercise selection to one side and stop putting so many movements into one session. I'm not saying you couldn't split them out throughout the week. You could definitely do that. You could have like 3 glute exercises one day, 2 the next, and then like a day off, and then like 2 and then 3 or something. That's fine. But you don't need 6, you don't need 7, you definitely don't need 8. So just lower that volume down, get good at those movements, and then progress them, and just get really strong in them. Really.
One thing that I want to address now that you've brought like glutes up, is like this idea that it's like a feminine movement, like a glute drive or like a hip thrust. You see, I can't remember the last time I've gone into like I don't know, maybe like a more commercial gym, because obviously we sort of like specialize with individuals, so they will most likely have a glute exercise of some sort on their plan. But like beforehand, when I was going to like Pure or Snap, and you'd see all these sort of like younger guys, and I'd see these guys quite regularly because it's like the same time every day sort of thing. And I don't think one of them would like touch up on glute work. And I don't think guys really understand the benefits of having like strong glutes. Like not even just for like being strong in like the lower body, but also like how it sort of manipulates your figure like 100%. And I think guys need to just get away from this slight rant. Do apologize, but like guys need to get away from this idea that like doing glute work, like a hip thrust, like a glute drive, is a sort of like feminine movement. It's no different to any other muscle in your body. Like you've got to train it, to get stronger at it. So why not train it?
Also aids with a smaller waist. A lot of guys don't think about like having, they all want a really small waist and wide shoulders. But, at the end of the day, if you can develop your glutes so well, and you can build, again, a huge thing to touch on is mind-muscle connection, and how well the neurological pathway connects from your brain to the muscle to be able to activate it. The more you do a glute drive, the better you are at activating the muscle tissue in your glutes. And the more that happens subconsciously, and a lot of guys that suffer, generally guys that suffer from a lot of lower back pain, it's because your body is neurologically connected to your lower back as a stabilizing muscle. So what happens is your body overuses the lower back. And as a byproduct of overusing the lower back, the obliques are used. And as a byproduct of using the obliques, the abs are used. And that sounds really good because you're like, oh yeah, I get loads of core development. But what happens is because it's consistent strain, it's not good, because that whole area will end up thicker. And actually, if you were to develop the glutes, you'd actually stabilize your body with the glutes, and you'd only work the abs when they need to be worked, which would mean they would get tighter, they get less inflamed. You'd actually have a smaller waist. And for me, again, in the past, when I did my first bodybuilding show, when I was like, my waist was the smallest it had ever been, was because my glutes were really, really well developed off the back of powerlifting, off the back of doing loads of really heavy, we're talking like up to like 200 kilos, hip thrusts on a barbell from the ground. The range of motion was short, but it was just literally sometimes the one of 2 movements I'd do in a session twice a week. So I do think there is that,
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I think it was one of like the first videos I made on my Instagram when I like started a new Instagram account, was like men neglecting their glutes. You want a tighter waist, you want like that sort of that like X frame, if you will, like wide at the top, wide at the bottom. Then you have to sort of manipulate the look in a way. There's only so there's only so much you can eat to make your waist that tight. There has to be, a stimulus applied in order to sort of make it that look, manipulate the look. So yeah, guys out there, don't neglect your glute work, honestly.
Yeah, and ladies as well. Yeah, just get stronger. Yeah, like honestly, like just get really strong in a glute drive. That kind of moves me on to the next thing, which is the glute medius. Yeah, so like for me, this is something that's really really fascinating. It's something that maybe you should try, Jake, because I watched a study the other day on how to actively work the glute medius. Now, obviously, you have got the leaning forwards version of the abduction, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really good one. However, they did an EMG study on that too, and they found that there was actually a 50-50% split between the glute max and the glute medius, even went length forwards. So they actually found that in some cases it was 60-70% of the glute max. And guys, if you don't know what the glute max is, I was trying to. Should I pull up hang on, I'll pull up a screen. I might be able to.
Try and see if you can share your screen.
Yeah, glute muscle sections. Hang on, we might be able to find it. So yeah. Cool. I've got one. Oh god. Okay. Right. No, I haven't got one. Never mind. It's pulled me to how to get a sexy bum page. Let's just. There we go. Okay. Cool. Right. Okay. I can share this now. Right. I'll share the screen. Right. This might be a bit small, but it's enough to reference. Right. Okay. This is enable zoom and scroll. Oh shit. Okay. Allow this time. Can I zoom?
Yeah, you're zooming.
All right. Cushy. So, right. Here is your glute medius maximus minimus. Yeah. So, when you're doing an abduction, you're leaning forwards, there is a 60-40% split, 60% on the maximus, and then literally 40% on the medius, right? Which is more than a glute drive. Yeah, you wouldn't get much medius if like 5% on a glute drive. Yeah. However, they found that it would switch to 80% medius and 20% maximus if you leant backwards instead. So rather than leaning forwards, if you actually just leant like here, like this, and then drove out, you got way more glute medius activation than max, which is fascinating.
It's really annoying.
I've tried it; it works.
Adjustable. How did you manage to try that on the machine?
Bro, I just put myself in a weird position, bro. I like folded myself. Yeah, I just sort of like let my legs hang out, over the side, and then just literally almost didn't bobble with my feet and just drove out through the outside of the quadricep. And yeah, it worked.
Nice, cool.
Mm-hmm. But for that medius point, abduction always. Abduction is the one. Yeah, like people do love like a cable abduction. I've added that into people's plans before, but because you have to take so much time with stabilizing your body, you're not really adequately allowing your body enough stabilization really to be able to just work the medius. You are going to get some compensation from like your hip flexor, which is sort of deep underneath all of this muscle tissue, which you just want to avoid because your hip flexor can get really strong. And that's what powerlifters use. You see some powerlifters that are really light, but they squat really, really heavy with a low bar squat. Generally, they don't have, especially in the lighter categories, really well developed legs or glutes. Their hip flexor gets really strong. And that's something that generally you want to avoid if you're going for aesthetics purely as well.
Nice.
Anything you want to add to that?
The only thing that frustrates me with the hip abduction is how unbelievably strong you can be on a hip abduction, but when you do an adduction, it's like the worst thing in the world. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are machines out there and pieces of kit that will pick up on this and then allow you to sort of like adjust the like the back part of the machine so you can angle the bench down almost like an incline bench. But yeah, it would be like way beneficial. Even like what was there like a percentage worked out if you were to just sit upright, or was it mainly sort of forward comparison to back?
Leaning forwards and sat upright was pretty much 60-40.
Oh, both the same.
Both the same. I think it was slightly more. I think it was more 70-30, slightly more when you're leaning forwards on the medius
Okay.
than the
All
max.
right.
However, when you're sat up straight, it's like, 30%, I would say. 30% on the medius and then about 70% on the max.
So it is interesting though, isn't it? How like a slight adjustment to your position completely like flips the script on where the tension is being
Yeah.
put. And most people, I mean, like, you know, your average gym goer will see a glute as a glute. You know, they won't obviously sort of maybe know the breakdown of the glute as such, but
Yeah.
it's useful information to know that sort of like that slight adjustment leaning backwards and that tension
Yeah.
shifts and moves to a different part.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I suppose the last thing is the minimus. Where do you feel the minimus? What movement works the minimus for you?
For me, that probably looking at sort of like a kickback of some sort.
Yeah, you reckon?
I'd say, yeah, like
Okay.
right at
Yeah,
the
I
top
can
of
see that.
a drive or a kickback.
Uh-huh.
For me personally,
Fair. Fair. I think the
yourself.
minimus. I think the minimus is generally used in most things. To be honest, I would say even in an abduction, your minimus is really used. I think it's a really hard muscle to isolate, nor is it one that you really want to isolate very often because it makes such a small part of your glutes. Like it's not.
Mm,
I know on here it's referencing it's quite low and it's quite a lot or a large muscle, but realistically, it's not that big. The max is the biggest one. The max is like the majority of the glute itself. And if you really want to work the minimus, then pretty much you should just get really good at like a hip thrust, abduction, and a squat, really. And I think you're pretty much there. And a squat you can trade a squat for like a leg press if you really needed to, because it's the same sort of range of motion anyway, just without the upper
mm,
body strain. So yeah, I would say there's not really any apart from you can do some really funky shit. You can just lie on the ground and do like a lying abduction potentially with a slight like internal rotation and slightly backwards might. But yeah, your donkey kickbacks, your squats, your hip thrusts, and your abduction are your main four really. Going to get you well-rounded glutes that way.
100%, 100%.
All right, next muscle group then. So if we're on the legs, we can talk about quadriceps. Should I get a quadricep? Should I get the
Yeah,
quadricep picture up?
Dirt,
All
dirt,
right.
100%.
So first off, what are your favorite quad movements, mate? What would you
My
recommend?
my one thing that I'd recommend, and I give this to probably I'd say majority of the clients that I take on board, is and you showed me this actually because we did a leg day one day and you showed me this and it was like the most pain I've ever been through in my life. It's a on the pendulum squat with a narrow stance and feet slightly lower on the platform and almost exaggerating like the knee over toe flexion and then driving up and like to the point where like you're coming off your heels and you are literally having all the tension on your toes and then driving up and then when you get to the top you lift your toes up so you're right on your heels and then like squeezing the fuck out of your quads. I've never felt burn quite like it and people say the leg extension's bad. I've never felt burn as much as I have on that pendulum squat and it is probably my most favorite leg exercise I'd say is that pendulum squat just
Interesting.
because of like the stable motion throughout, the way
Yeah.
that like adjusting your foot position, and again, stability wise, you can switch from like working your quads to like your glutes and your hamstrings to like just your hamstrings. But yeah, that for me, I'd say a close stance pendulum squat is probably my number one for overall glutes. If you were to isolate the glutes,
You mean quads?
quads, sorry. Yeah, if you were
We're
to
talking about
isolate your
quads.
quads, then I mean, like a heavy leg extension with sort of like twisting the toes inwards. For your vastus medialis for that one when you're like
Yeah.
sort of like you
Yeah.
drive up with your toes pointing up and then you sort of like point them inwards. You can get a solid burn out of that. And again, it's fucking horrible, but like the pump you get on your quads is unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, a pendulum squat for me is like a goated movement in my books anyway.
Go-to movement.
Absolutely
I love
goated,
that.
mate. It's unreal.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel like I don't know. For me personally, it's always leg extensions. It always has been leg extensions. Leg extensions are the go of building out your quadriceps. I think the thing is with like a leg extension, you're literally working the majority of pretty much everything. Yeah, because it's so. If you think about like most quad movements is all about knee over toe flexion. Yeah, so how far, like you said, knee over toe flexion in a squat, just heel elevate. Yeah, try and get your knees to go over your toes. In a leg extension, you were doing exactly that, right? So when you're sat on a good leg extension machine, your legs are tucked underneath you. You are basically sat down in the bottom position of a squat anyway, with a lot of knee over toe flexion, because you're sat with this sort of like bent leg position like this. And then you go to full extension. Like that, that for me, that if you can get a leg extension, they're really fucking hard to find. We don't even have one. I wish we did. The old school leg extensions that allowed you to get right back underneath you.
Yeah, I remember you
Oh
mentioned this to me the
my
other day.
days. City Fitness used to have one when I was young, and they got rid of it. And I was so gutted when they got rid of it, because I was like, that machine, I always had good quads, man. Like one of the first muscles that grew on my body was my quadriceps. I had this like massive sweep on the outside of my quads. And low key, my squats weren't good then. But my leg press was really deep, and my leg extensions were really good. And I just got really good at them. I would literally sit on the leg extension, set after set after set, just pushing absolute failure. And I don't think there was ever a muscle that was really imbalanced on my quadriceps. Like my vastus medialis and my lateralis was really, really good always. And also my rectus femoris, which is the top part of the quadricep, was always really prominent. And especially you could see that when I was in prep, when I got really lean, right? It was always veins going across it. And I would put that specifically down to leg extensions, really.
Very yeah, again, I remember the times where we used to train together back in the good old days, like 4 months ago, where like legs was like the epitome of hell. But it was one of the best sessions I think I'd ever do in the week was legs.
Yeah.
And again, going back to sort of, I'd say both men and women, like leg day is kind of like, oh, fucking hell, leg day again. But oh my gosh, if you can learn to love leg days, then it is like a complete mind shift, mentality shift when you go to train, because like, oh, the pump is unreal, especially like a quad pump as well. Like, what guy does not want to have a fucking sick sweep on their legs? Like, am I wrong? Like, what guy doesn't want? What guy goes to gym and goes, yeah, I don't want big legs. I just want big upper body. Like, I think the
And
era of like,
even for the ladies as well, yeah. Like for the
yeah,
ladies, like oh my days, yeah. If you can build your quads out, like
mm,
right, ladies, for you can train your legs more frequently than we can as guys, right? So
I
you could
know.
have some fucking incredible legs. Like I love working with women, right? That have this like fucking intense drive to just build muscle, because
Hmm.
they can grow some mad legs. Yeah, like we're talking like crazy shit. Like it's harder for them to build upper body muscles, because obviously it's all about hormones and androgen receptors. So obviously, us guys, even if we were to train legs, we'd probably develop quite a lot in our shoulders and our chest and our back. We'd end up quite broad. Whereas women, there's not that capacity there. So you could get some freaky legs, dude. You could have like a bikini upper body and then have some legs that are just like absolute weapons,
I mean, you
And
take
like,
Vicky for example in the gym. That's come on board with you for wellness, and like how much her legs. You did a before and after video not too long ago,
yeah, bro.
and like the difference is incredible.
Mm,
It's unreal. Like
hmm
it is incredible.
It's nuts, man. It's nuts.
Mm.
She's got a better like sweep than both of us.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
What
I
the
know.
fuck?
Yeah, I know. I know.
How long you been training for?
I've only been doing it for 12 years, mate. It's fine.
Yeah, I know.
Don't worry about
It's
it.
like,
Don't worry about
brilliant.
it.
Cheers. I'll just quit now.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? The show
Yeah.
I want to do, cancel it.
Nah,
No.
but I do think the one key thing with the leg extension, guys, if you're trying to maximize your leg extension, it's all about the stretch as well, and
Mm.
not almost trying to drive out of that stretch with like sheer just aggression. Like if you try and drive out of it with just aggression, you go "Ugh," and you just like jolt your legs forwards, you are going to suffer at some point some injury to your knees. If you can keep the tempo strong, and I'm not saying you have to be really slow, like really slow. It could be up, down, up, down, like that. That's still reasonably, like, I wouldn't say quick, but it's moderate. Like you're gonna keep your knees very safe. You just need to give your quads time to turn on, and this is something that's like really, really important. Is not using like your joints and your ligaments and tendons to move weight, And again, that is something that was ingrained into me right from the beginning when I worked. When again, I trained in city fitness when I was young with a load of bodybuilders that were all massive. Those guys, they didn't have access to the internet. They just kind of trial and errored everything. So they try and kind of figured out what worked based off of I'm going to try this or it doesn't work, and I'm going to try this and so on and so forth. There was one older guy who was like 65 at the time when I was like 16, and he was like, he caught me doing legs, and he was like, he came over, grabbed me by the thigh, and was there like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, just doing leg extensions. He was like, "Slow it down. Don't be an idiot. You'll put yourself in a wheelchair." And I was like, "Oh, okay, fair." And he was like,
Love
"Also, if you want good legs, slow it down." And then, I remember doing my first set with a reasonably moderate pace, even at the top kind of couple of reps where it's really hard. And honestly, the burn just lasted for like a week of just feeling like I'd really, really worked my legs well. And that was different beforehand, where I just feel it almost like behind the kneecap. And
Yeah.
that's just ligaments, tendons, and tissue that is just trying to move the weight for you rather than you connecting with the muscle and allowing the muscle to move the weight.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is always funny, and there's a big test at Tribe when people do legs and they get off the leg session, then they have to walk down the stairs, and it's always you can always tell who's had a good leg session, right? When they are
Yeah.
nearly crawling down the stairs. It's brilliant. But yeah, if
I agree.
you can learn to train your quads and get just like a really exaggerated squeeze and also the stretch as well, then the sweep and the look and the aesthetic side of things it's crazy. It's mad.
Yeah. Right, let's move on to hamstrings then. Hamstrings.
Okay, I've got two for this.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'd say for a squeeze, you've got like your hamstring curl. Of course, get a really good squeeze with a hamstring curl. For a stretch, now we had I say we, you popped in a glute and hamstring top up day on my program for like a very short period of time, just to sort of like add some more volume into hamstrings. And I remember you showed me an Instagram video and you were like, I really want to try this because I'm someone that engages their lower back quite a lot, especially with a compound lift. So I think we had like 2 Romanian deadlifts in the week, and I was like, dude, I cannot do this because my lower back is gone. And you know what my back sounds like when it cracks. It's like, oh my God, it's awful. I sound like an old man. So we did this. It was kind of like a good morning, but with the weight loaded at the front. Okay, so you imagine you're doing like a front squat, but you're doing a good morning instead. And it was like that. And that is probably one of the best stretches I've had on a hamstring. Out of any ever exercise. The hamstring curl is good, but I don't necessarily feel it as much. I feel the squeeze way more than I would the stretch.
Yeah.
So those two for me, they were good exercises to go to for hamstrings, definitely.
Yeah, I completely agree. I personally love an RDL. An RDL works your bicep femoris massively, so it's like a huge chunk in the middle, right in the middle. I find that that's really developed on me off the back of just getting really strong in an RDL. Like think of a hip hinge. But also a lying leg curl, something that's really fascinating from a scientific perspective. I remember Sebastian Oreb, who's the Australian strength coach, did a full video on it, and he was like, if you notice in my gym, we have just pretty much free weights, and he does just have pretty much free weights in his gym in Australia. He's got this group PT center. And if you don't know who Sebastian Oreb is, he's a very, very high level powerlifting coach. And he coached Hap Thor Bjornsson to break the world record deadlift. And he said, the one machine you will notice, which is like the circling point of my gym, is a hamstring curl. And people were like, okay, why is that? And he said, it's the only exercise that targets the short head of the hamstring in a specific way. It's basically where the short head crosses over the knee. So like, I don't know whether you can see it here, but like there's a short head where I think it's labeled as the semitendinosus. I don't call it that. It's just the short head. You got the bicep femoris, long head, and short head. But you got a short head that crosses over the kneecap. You literally cannot work that in an RDL. You cannot work that in any other hamstring movement. So you have to do either a seated hamstring curl or a lying leg curl. And a lying leg curl is the best machine for that. So if you can have those two, just an RDL, and you get very good RDLs and leg curls, you are literally gonna like bank very good hamstrings. The only thing, like you said, if you suffer with an RDL with your lower back, generally speaking, you probably want to find another movement that requires some kind of hip flexion that doesn't cause you lower back pain. For me, I would probably say for most people, you just need a little bit of core work, and it's probably a form issue. But if it is something that's chronic, then you need to find another movement. Like you said, like a standing good morning, for example, is still very good. It's still hips going back, hips coming forwards, which is still going to stretch out the long head of the bicep femoris as well. But yeah, or a stiff leg deadlift. I'm not against a stiff leg deadlift as well.
I think for any sort of like barbell lift of some sort, I just go fucking light and slow. My lower back is not one for it, unfortunately. Now that you mentioned sort of the lying and seated leg curl, your personal preference between the two, which one would you sort of like? If you had two in front of you, which one sort of would you gravitate towards? Because I kind of like a seated leg curl, but at the same time, I kind of like a lying leg curl.
Yeah, I feel like a seated leg curl for the contraction and a lying leg curl for the extension. And if you were to balance out the two, you get more growth out of the extension point on a hamstring than you would do the contraction. So I would always say lying leg curl if you're looking for the most development. But I'm not against if a seated hamstring curl as well. Like if you have a seated hamstring curl, that's still fine. It's just hard to get full extension, isn't it? Because you normally have to like drag your legs all the way up, and most people can't do that, and some machines don't allow you to do that, which is shit because you're missing out on 40% of the movement.
Also, some of the seated leg curls that I've been on, the the padding that rests on your knees to sort of keep you locked in place. Fuck me, is that uncomfortable?
Yeah,
like you think you're trying to go heavy on a hamstring curl, and your knee is just being like pushed down by this pad. It's uncomfortable. So I'd have to agree with you with the lying leg curl. For choice,
lying. I would say lying. All right, should we move into the upper body?
I was going to touch on calves.
Oh, I don't know about
that. Okay.
What are they?
Oh no. Standard calf raise on a Smith machine. There you go. Sorted. End of convo. Anyway, moving on to the upper body.
Yeah, I like with calf raises, you just generally like the biggest tips that I could give anybody for good calf development is keeping a lot of pressure through the inside of the feet. That's something that was a game changer for me, even though my calves aren't great compared to my upper leg. Like, 'cause my upper leg is so well developed. My calves aren't that bad, but they're just, my upper leg is so developed that it makes my calves look shit. I would say when you're doing a calf raise, it's very easy to externally rotate. So externally put pressure on the outside of the foot, which means you'll get a lot of activation from the ligaments and tendons around the ankle, which are very strong because they have supported you your entire life. And you'll find that you will not get much growth in the calf by having this kind of like, imagine this is your foot, you're going to come up on your tiptoes and you're going out a little bit like this. You need to keep pressure. If this is your big toe, keep pressure internally rotated to keep the weight loaded up into the calf. So there's no kind of twist and kind of movement through those ligaments and tendons. So always just think like best cue is just press the big toe down.
It was really interesting once. So when you got me started with my men's physique program, we had calf raises on there, and I think I was doing 3 sets of 20, something like that. And some older guy came up to me in the gym over at Snap in somewhere, and he said, if you do like 10 with your feet sort of inverted and then 10 with your feet pointing outwards, he said, you're going to get loads of growth through that, mate. I was like, okay, cool. So I tested it out. Do you know when you say something just to keep someone happy and just to end the conversation? And I was like, yeah, that's really good. Yeah, that's really good. It was literally just a calf raise with my foot in a different position. It was like literally no more benefit than a normal standard calf raise.
No, dude, on that subject, there was a lady I watched a video from earlier today, and she was talking about how she does hip thrusts, and she says she goes up and she does like 12 pulses before then doing her set, and she'll do a pulse at the top of every rep. And for me, it's weird because I'm kind of like, she did not have bad glutes. But she'd still do 8 full range of motion glute drives. And I suppose it comes down to like whatever allows you to connect to the muscle best. And I'm not saying it's, if we were to go by science, like it should just be glute drives. But sometimes having like your own way of doing it to be able to like build that mind muscle connection, so that when you do the actual exercise, as long as you're doing the actual exercise properly, at some point, you're still going to experience growth. So like for him, if he needs to internally rotate his feet for 10, which are really crappy reps, and then goes to like a normal position for 10, then those secondary 10 are still going to be good. Does that make sense? He's still doing 10 good reps. So it's like, it's not wrong. It's just probably a bit of a waste of time for most people, but not him.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of personal, what's the word?
Yeah. Preference.
That's it. Thank you. There's definitely a lot of personal preference when it comes to movements in the gym. It can be anything from like a wide grip on a bench to a short, like a lower to a narrow grip. You know, some people just feel stuff with different little, different pointers here and there, and that's literally it. That doesn't mean to say it's a right or a wrong way to do it.
Nah. There was a guy when I was young that was like, if you want to grow your calves, do 100 reps. And I'm like, like being honest, like, again, he had great calves. But the biggest like determining factor for most people with calves is heavily reliant on genetics and kind of like where the heads of your calves are actually like placed together. And some people will always just have very dense and thick calves, and some people will just generally not. And that's kind of down to how your body's built, which is why so many bodybuilders had like calf implants for a period of time, because they were like, I know how to train, I know how to build a muscle, but this muscle will not grow. And it's like, it will not grow in the right way. Which is why Arnie got accused of having calf implants back in the day, didn't he?
Did he? I never knew that.
Yeah, he got accused of it. Whether or not he did or didn't, it never really came to surface. He said he didn't, it was silly, but at the same time, people have done more extreme things for a lot less.
The annoying thing about calves definitely is that there literally is one movement for a calf, and that is just
tiptoes.
Literally that. Dude,
I think we should do ballet lessons, bro.
Yeah, you reckon?
Spend a full hour on those tiptoes, man.
Calves would be wham afterwards.
I would like to think that I'm pretty elegant. As a 244-pound male.
I know that you're elegant. You are an elegant man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Every time I say that to Maddie, she tells me to fuck off. So, right, moving on to
the upper body.
Moving on to the upper body. Right, so we're gonna go pegs. Pegs is a weird one, yeah, because there's so many different parts. It's a bit like glutes, isn't it? Yeah, where it's like glutes have like 3 major sections, 2 major, 1 minor. Pecs are a little bit like 1 major and then like 2 minors, but like at the same time, those minors actually do make a massive difference. So what are your 3 go-tos, and what parts of the pecs are they working, and why?
Okay, so we've got the incline Smith machine press. I will always go to for the like upper part of my chest, if you will, just for like, I think ever since we've done those like multiple times of the week, like the thickness of my chest has definitely improved, like way more. Sort of like the middle section. It kind of varies between, like, sometimes I like a machine chest press, like flat machine chest press. Other times I like a sort of like mid cable fly. And then for the like lower area of my pec, I'd go to a costal cable press every day of the week. Can go really heavy and like just like really good squeeze. And I love I just love like a pressing movement. And obviously that is one that targets it. Either that, or like you mentioned, I think you mentioned it on Monday or last week on the podcast, I think you mentioned like a decline barbell bench press. Could always go like heavy on those for some weird reason.
Yeah, dude, there's such a good movement.
Yeah, very good. Very good. So I think, that's my 3. So you've got incline Smith machine press, you've got I'd say machine chest press, flat, and then a costal cable press. 100%.
Yeah, I agree. So I've got a little bit, I say I agree with the majority. A little bit of a variation here. I would say, so for the clavicular part of your chest, which is the top, right, that clavicular line up here, definitely a Smith press, you are right, or an incline barbell press, or an incline dumbbell press, any kind of pressing movement in an incline, like 45 degrees, like just slightly above parallel. I don't believe in going up like this high. You see some guys go up this high. It's like you're doing a glorified shoulder press, bro. Like you're just you're using your delts. So not only are you limiting growth in your upper chest, but you're also limiting how much weight you could lift because your shoulders are way smaller than your upper chest. For like the sternal pecs, the center part, bit of a weird one. If I was to chalk up between doing a flat press or doing a fly, doing like a normal neutral fly, I'd take the fly, bro. I'd take the fly every day. Because if you think about it logically in my head, right, this is the way I think about it. If I've already done a press, that is my upper chest with a bit of my front deltoid and a bit of my tricep. The tricep can be thick, so it can definitely kick in a lot, right? A lot of people fail their press because of their triceps, not so much their chest, or their delts. When you do like a flat press, you are still getting your front delts and your triceps involved, right? And when you do a fly, because there is no extension through the elbow, there is absolutely zero involvement through your triceps apart from stabilization, but they're not aiding with pushing the lift itself. So you are going to be able to fatigue your sternal pecs through doing a fly over doing a flat press of some kind. However, that being said, that's only if you can do it right, and it's hard to do right. Flies are hard to do right because you've got to have a lot of mind muscle control to be able to, when you hit that failure point, especially if you're doing a fly where, for us, we got a fly where you can kind of move out and in with your elbows a little bit. So the two bars kind of move out and in like this. If you're on like a solid fly, which you generally don't find nowadays, because to be honest, some people have really short limbs, so it didn't fit them. But if you had like a solid fly where the bar's still, where you can't flex the elbow in, you will be all right. But if you have one that's like movable and adjustable, when you fail, there's going to be this inherent want to just get the weight to move, and you'll bend at the elbows and start to involve the triceps. So you have to have a lot of control there. And then for the costal fibers, which is a lower pecs, I would always say like a decline barbell bench press. I've recently got that up to like 125 for a set of 10, and it's just like one which is like mad strong. And you can just fucking haul weight, man. Like you can just haul weight, and you can build a lot of thickness in your chest that way. But if you can get a good, I reckon for me personally, if you can master all three of those and get strong in those, your pecs will be very, very good, in my opinion. You said you look like a bit of like a when I said flies, because I actually for you it's delts, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Like you feeling your delts when you do a fly?
I don't get me wrong. I do feel it in my chest. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think I've just always enjoyed like a pressing movement. I just feel like I can really exaggerate the squeeze with my. I don't know. It's really weird to say. I think I can just like really squeeze properly hard when I'm doing a press as opposed to a fly. And I think sometimes I might like pick up an issue with like my rotator cuff, for example. You know, when people do like a heavy center bench and they're like, "Oh fuck me, my shoulder hurts." I think I tend to get a bit of that when I do flies, which is why I'll always enjoy a pressing movement.
That's because you're using your shoulders, bro. It's because you're using your shoulders. Which is hard. It's hard, man. You have to like really find a way of connecting with the pecs for a fly, and that sometimes means weeks of going lighter until you can connect with it and then build back up again. Which is tough on the ego for some.
Oh, massively, bro. Fucking hell. For the guys, hugely.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. So that's the pecs covered. So let's go into, should we go into back? Back would be a good one. Lats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So
okay.
Lats, what are you thinking for lats? If you want to develop your lats well, what would you go to?
Again, sticking to like the basics, these are very sort of common movements which everyone has probably done, no doubt. It's just like a straightforward lateral pull down for me. But I strap up, like I properly strap up. I see people in the lateral pull down that don't strap up and they get off, and obviously there is a lot of tension within their forearms because they are pulling with their arms. I strap up. I don't even think, like, sometimes, and it sounds, again, I am not advocating for this because this is obviously not safe, but I will strap up like proper tight, and like sometimes my hands won't even be around the bar. I will simply just allow the straps to like strap onto my wrist and then just drive my elbows down. And for me, again, leaning back as I do it, getting a good squeeze, and then just allowing the weight of the bar to just like take my hands up and just stretch me. Just like really breaking down the movement, really allowing like the weight to travel. And again, just get like a really good stretch. Either that or again, another like sort of one of your basics is just an assisted pull up, taking some of the weight off, obviously your body weight, and then just driving up, really like sort of like exaggerating the chest to the bar, definitely, and just getting like a really good squeeze. And then again, just come down like super slow, get a really big stretch, kind of imitating a lateral pull down, but obviously the reverse is happening. You're going down as opposed to the bar going up. So those two movements to me, I feel like I've always grown my back, my lats definitely. And just obviously, I think it's because I might be going towards like a slightly different goal, which is obviously classic, which requires you to have an X frame, meaning a wide upper body. So those two movements 100% would go to. Failing that, a pullover. Pullover is incredible, definitely for the stretch. And again, like the squeeze, I'd say, I'd argue personally on preference, it kind of would maybe work more on sort of like the lower lats as opposed to the sort of like the upper back. But a pullover is always a good movement to do, definitely.
Fair.
So those three. I know you asked for one, I give you three.
Yeah, no, it's fine, bro. It's fine. Your lats are a big muscle. I think when you want to do like if you're doing like your upper lats, you're right, a lateral pull down. It's the most controlled movement that you could possibly do. So I think you're taking the legs out of it, you're taking your core out of it. If you're pulling your upper arm down, then yeah, you're going to get a lot of activation there. I would always say, like, if you're doing a lateral pull down, if you're trying to work your upper lats, if you're really trying to build width, you need a wide bar and an overhand grip. Like, you need to make sure that you take a wide bar and overhand grip. Don't go for the whole, like, don't go to this kind of neutral grip, which is here, and then keep your elbows tucked. I think as soon as you sort of start to keep your elbows tucked, you will sort of bias the lower lat more so than the upper lat. But if I was to really focus on like two major movements that could really develop someone's back, a lateral pull down or a wide grip pull up, definitely, if you have good body weight control. And for lower lats and still a little bit of upper lats as well, I would say like a seated row. And again, when you're doing the row, you have to keep that elbow tucked tight. So like think upper back, elbows flared out, and then obviously when you're doing your rows, it's kind of elbow tucked in. And a cable row is good. Machine row is good just as well. It's whatever you connect well with. I find the cable for most people is always better than the machine row because you get more freedom over the handle.
I'd agree, yeah.
Yeah, and you want to avoid, for anybody who's trying to build their lats, right, you want to avoid this position, which is like here, where you're like tucking tight and you've got this acute angle through the forearm up to the bicep. If you're pulling in and you end up like this, the handle is far too high. You need to be focusing on driving the upper arm back as far as you can. And you also need this right angle. So it should be like here and here. And then what happens is your lat will then activate way more as opposed to biasing the bicep, which a lot of guys I feel like do. Yeah, a lot of guys that struggle with back development is like, oh, I'm doing back all the time, but I'm not seeing any back growth. Well, you are using your biceps because normally those guys really fucking hurt their forearms. They're like,
they're going super heavy on a pull, and then
your brachialis, which is like kind of down here, like will work and overpower the lats. And even though it's a small muscle, it's got a lot of power behind it. Yeah, because it's just basically in control of extension and flexion. So it's been doing that your whole life, so it's very strong and it will take over. Whereas you doing a very controlled row is not something that you generally would do on a day-to-day. I don't see many people setting up perfectly to open a door. Do you know what I mean? Would be great though. Can you imagine? Yeah. Let me grab the door for you.
Yeah, strapped. Chalk.
Yeah. Enter quick. I've got full contraction. Yeah, man. So
Yeah.
those two are always going to build the lats out. The one other part of the back that we do definitely need to touch on is like erectors. I say one, it's three erectors, rhomboids, and traps, which is more like center back. I feel like obviously I don't know about you, but traps, shrugs of any kind. For me, bro, like I'm OG old school, love a good fucking heavy barbell shrug, dude, for traps. Like stack some fucking weight on a barbell and get me to shrug it, dude. Like the range of motion might be piss poor, but man, do I feel good when I do it. And
And the
actually,
grunt every rep as well,
bro,
please.
I used to go to Castle Place and I used to work there. Me, Rob, and H, which were the two guys I trained with at the time, we literally just go over to when we were training like upper back and traps. We'd load up like 180 kilos, bro, and just shrug as much as we could. And I'm not gonna lie, trap development wise, we were all fine. Like we were all very good. We had very good traps.
Calluses all ripped.
Oh yeah, dude, grip wise, and central nervous system wise, we're absolutely buggered. But you know,
But the traps are
me,
good.
traps are good though, yeah, absolutely. Rhomboids and erectors will just be used when you're doing a deadlift. So if you're doing like an RDL or any kind of stiff deadlift variation, your erectors will work. They're kind of the long muscles down the spine which support the spine, and like the upper back retraction generally will be used when you're doing any kind of row. Yeah, so like any kind of row. If you really want to develop the upper back, the interior upper back, even though I just said about doing a cable row, keeping the elbow tucked, you want to do a row with the elbow fled a little bit more, and that will generally bias the upper back. It's just hard to be able to isolate over the traps because
We
they're
did that for
both.
a period of time, didn't we, with the lateral pull down bar,
Mm,
like with a wide grip. And I mean, you connected with it really well because it was on your plan. You've been doing it,
yeah,
but
but
yeah,
the
I
thing
found it
is,
slightly more difficult.
the reason why it's tricky is that you've got your rhomboids are like imagine it's like layers of muscle on your back. So like in the center back, you've got your rhomboids here, which is like a deeper layer, and then your
Sure.
traps over the top of the rhomboids
Mm,
and extending up and through. So it is hard to isolate just your rhomboids without much trap interaction.
yeah.
And it's challenging, bro. Like I'm not gonna lie, you've got to have a lot of mind muscle connection. I think for most people, though, if you would just focus on a lateral pull down and a cable row, just as singular main focus movements, and just progress those, you probably activate your rhomboids anyway, and you develop them well. And then for
Mm,
traps, just a shrug of any kind, whatever you
sure.
connect well with, and just go heavy, bro. Shrugs are the
Mm,
only muscle where I'm like, just go heavy as hard as you possibly can. Like I think it's such a minor movement, isn't it? Yeah, it's not like there's a lot involved in this. You know,
mm.
is so basic and brassic that just fucking haul weight, bro.
I think the common issue some people have though is they do tend to pull with the arms to begin with, and sort
Oh
of
yeah,
like almost
yeah,
like row it up.
yeah. Which, to be honest, I'm not fully against if it allows your shoulders to retract, but it's when the shoulders are not retracting, it's just the elbows. At that point, it's like,
Mm,
okay, cool. You're doing it like a half bicep curl.
yeah.
So,
Half
yeah.
bicep curl slash upright row sort of thing.
Yeah. So I suppose the next thing to move on to is our biceps, yeah.
Mm. Well, I
What
mean, obviously we've got two heads, right? And I'll always go to like the shoulders forward, shoulders back. So an easy bar curl or like an incline dumbbell curl. Like again, like the basics for me. When I first started out at the gym though, I did 21s and fuck me, 21s for a pump is unreal. Like yeah, it's just unreal. I'd go like super close grip for the first seven and then come sort of like halfway up. And then I'd go like wider grip, do like the whole thing. And then yeah, like super like sort of like narrow grip again and do like the top motion and fuck me the pump where like do like 3 sets of like 21s and yeah, it's unreal. Like just go like super heavy on them, just burn
It's
out.
crazy when you think about it. Go back to like 21s and actually thinking about how well it developed people's arms.
Mm,
If you think about it logically, right, you are doing the whole shoulder forward, shoulder back thing. Because when you're in, like when you take a narrow grip, you have to bring your shoulders forwards, right? Like
mm.
you physically, it's I don't see anybody doing like a close grip curl and they're like, ah, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird position to be in. But like for guys referencing what Jake just said there, okay, you have two heads to your bicep. You have the short and the long head. The short head is used when your shoulders are forwards. The long head is used when your shoulders are back. And going back to your 21s, again, that first 7, you'd have to be here. And then as you go wider, you can pull back, which technically means you are just doing the effective, like, you're doing preacher curls on a preacher bench, which is a good way of doing the shoulders forwards variation. And then you're doing some kind of shoulder retracted bicep movement, which could be done for an incline bicep curl. So I feel like when guys go on about 21s being amazing, it's like, well, yeah, they're good. They're going to work both heads of your bicep 100%.
My two negatives towards it though is the volume in a set, and also are you just chasing a pump like I mentioned? Like you are literally just chasing a pump.
I was going to say, so the problem is you could be way more effective at working both of those heads if you just isolated each of them.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah.
It was just pure ego, and my 16-year-old state, pure ego and pure pump. And if I saw a vein on my bicep, then that meant we had a good session. Okay, that's all I'm worried about.
yeah, man. So I reckon,
just volume.
I reckon, guys, if you are to emphasize what Jake just said there, if you are looking to develop your biceps, you've got two heads, so just make sure you have one movement your shoulder forwards. So that could be like an EZ, a close grip EZ preacher curl, really fucking good because you have support under your arm. If you think biceps is just elbow flexion, that's all it is. That really helped me develop my arms. If you imagine it's like just elbow flexion, yeah, and a lot of people, that sounds stupid, but a lot of people when they do a curl, they'll do this, and they'll pull back with their traps as they pull up, or use momentum. You should keep everything still, and it should be and down. That's literally it. There is literally no retraction, no movement anywhere else but the elbow. If you can do that, and your shoulders forwards, like a EZ preacher curl, you were going to work the short head very well. And then you need one movement with the shoulder back for the long head, which could be done with an incline, like Jake said, an incline dumbbell curl. Or you could do a single arm cable curl. If the cable's set to the bottom and it's pulling your arm back like this, that is a great way of just making sure that your shoulder stays back because you have something pulling the shoulder back. If you are not competent in doing that, on your own. So I think, either one of those two is a very good variation. You do not need to do more than that, though. I see people doing hammer curls, bro. And I'm like, I used to do heavy hammer curls with like the 30s, man. And like, I just remember thinking, it's just going to build thickness in my arms without even knowing the science of it. And naturally, in reality, you're just building up the brachialis again, which is your forearm. And to be honest, if anything, you're making it harder to then feel your lats on a lateral pull down because then the brachialis is even stronger and will try and take over for the majority.
The one question I do have, and it's something that I do pick up a lot on when people do a curl, is like take your incline bicep curl, for example. They'll obviously start with their shoulders back, their their elbows are fixed, and they'll curl. And then, like you mentioned, bring these elbows forward and then curl all the way up to they're here. And it's like you're kind of just taking away all the tension,
Yeah,
you curl until literally like your elbows at like a 90-degree angle. You could go to a 90-degree angle. You're gonna get a fucking amazing squeeze, and then just go like slow on the way down. Like there is literally no need for you to have to bring them all the way up here to get a good squeeze because if anything, you again, for me personally, when I do that, you just take away the tension. Yeah. So that's one thing. One little thing that I've picked up definitely when I've seen people do their curls. And it's like the same with like a cable curl as well, like just a normal standing cable curl. They'll come all the way up here. And it's like, me personally, I'd stop until I get a squeeze. And that could just be like 90 degrees at my elbow and then just go down super slow and get a really good stretch. There is no need for you to have to sort of like flex this elbow all the way. Again, it's personal preference for me because some people might feel like the squeeze in other sort of like angles of their when their elbow is flexing. But for me personally, there is no need to sort of like have to swing all the way up and come all the way to the top. There might be some difference of opinion there from the reaction.
No. I do agree with you. I think the logic is sound. I think though it depends on like. It really depends on what you connect with biceps, yeah? Like, again, if you need to go up into that top range and that's where you feel the squeeze in your biceps, because you have to do that, as long as the majority of the movement is done through elbow flexion, I'm not against the last little bit, having a little bit of a little bit of delts involved to allow you to maximally tense your bicep potentially, as long as you're not lifting the whole movement with your delts. Yeah, like there's a very big difference between this. This is fine. However, this is really bad. Yeah, like that's just your front deltoid at that point, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that moves you on to the next thing, delts. Yeah, and we'll have to cap it at delts. We're about an hour in, and I'm aware that you got to go on holiday as well. So
I appreciate that, mate. I appreciate that.
But delts is one that I wanted to really touch on, because this is something that's really, really, I feel like, overtrained by a lot of people. So for me personally, if I was to program someone to have really good delts, it would be side delt raises of some kind, like a lateral raise, either on a cable or a dumbbell, or a rear delt fly. There would be absolutely zero front delt work. And the logic behind that is when you do like any kind of press for your chest, you are working the front delt. And also for most people's lifestyle habits, you're either driving to work and taking phone calls in your car, which, to be honest, you're always working the front deltoid, or you're at work on your PC like this, or you're doing manual labor work where you're stacking or picking stuff up like this. Your front deltoid gets so much volume throughout the day. You never, one would hope, you'd never drive the car like this or type like this, yeah, which normally means the side deltoid is never used, yeah, and the rear deltoid especially never used. So to be able to get that like nice round cap to your delts, you do need to just do side delt raises, man. Otherwise, if you just do fronts, yeah, sure, like your front deltoid will be all right, but equally your posture is going to be fucking awful, and you're probably going to get injured all the time, and you're never going to get the 3D delts you're looking for women and men. Like for both, like, you know, women want good toned shoulders. Do side delt raises and rear delt flies. Commit to that. Don't do 5 different exercises for delts, man. It's just kind of, you know, it's redundant.
I don't think there was one person that I don't think there's one person I'd ever set front delts to.
No, unless they're doing like military press for like a performance competition, they need to get better at it. Maybe they have a problem with stabilization. I can understand, but like that's very few and far between. Yeah,
I was gonna say that's quite a niche. It's quite a niche individual. Yeah, 100% agree, man. 100% agree. Literally, just like a rear delt fly, maybe every other session, and a lateral raise every other session again. And go slow as well. Fucking hell, have I seen people swing weight on the lateral raises?
Yeah, man.
Don't know if you've seen it as well. And they almost have their arms bent at 90 degrees, and they're kind of doing like a like an opposite to a fly, I guess. I don't know, where they're literally just like swinging the weight up like this, and it's like all you're doing is just bringing your two scapulars together. Like that is all you're doing. You are not training your traps as well. You are not doing any side delt activation whatsoever. You're just swinging. It's like you're trying to fly, but you're being weighed down by the two dumbbells that are in your hand. That's what it looks like. So, yeah, that's one thing I've definitely noticed when seeing people.
And also as well, really, really good analogy. This was I heard this on a video once. Was if you think about what the side deltoids are, they're one of the smallest muscles on your body. It's literally like a small sliver of muscle down the side of your delts. It's tiny, right? It is tiny. There is very little weight that you need to use to be able to develop that muscle because it's so small. So actually, unless you have if you see someone lift in the 20s on a lateral raise, if they have boulder shoulders, we're talking like densified 3D delts, yeah, they can do that. That's okay. They've developed it to a point. It's very rare though. However, if you see someone on the 20s and they don't have shoulders that look like they should be doing the 20s, there is something else working that way, not the delts. It'll probably be the traps. And you know, it's annoying because you see lads and they're going so heavy on lateral raises, and you're like, dude, if you only knew if you went to half that weight and you slowed the motion down a little bit and you didn't lift your shoulders up and you actually drove out and kept your elbows locked, you probably get 2 to 3 times more growth out of that exercise. But you're choosing to lift really heavy as an ego thing because you probably saw some bodybuilding montage where someone was doing it. Again, bodybuilders that are 270 pounds, that probably have worked up to that weight over the course of 15 years. And you're like, that needs to be me, so I need to do exactly what they're doing without the thought of they've been doing it for 15 years and have
Yeah.
put the time in it and they deserve to be lifting that weight. Like, you haven't earned
Mm.
it yet, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely that misconception with I think all the exercises that we've covered, really. There is that overall tip where if you go slow and perfect the movement, then you will get the maximal amount of growth. Again, like you mentioned, like you see people on social media go super heavy and do improper form, and then you instantly like, oh, that's how I'm going to do it, and I'm going to look like this. And it's really weird because the breakdown of it is actually really simple. Like, if you think about it, all we have said are exercises that work well, and if you go slow and focus on a stretch and a squeeze, you'll basically progress. And it's interesting how quickly that sort of just goes from people's like thought
but then
process.
on the flip side, though, man, and this is where I battle as a personal trainer, I'm sure you do too. There is also an emphasis on getting stronger in those movements, but you have to, like, the biggest thing that's going to cause growth is progressive overload, being able to master the form, master the technique, and make the appropriate moves to get stronger over time. However, for most people, it's this consistent battle between form and whether or not they sacrifice form to be able to get a bit heavier. And it needs to be this like really, really fine line of like understanding your
Yeah.
body so well to the point where you're like, I have mastered this movement. So now I can lift a touch heavier, right? And I always feel like that I have worked with people that are so apprehensive about their form, they don't want to ever risk going heavier. And then I've got people on the other side going, I have perfected my form when they haven't, and they've gone heavier when they shouldn't, right? So it's this kind of like fine line in between. I would always say to anybody, when you're on a weight, master that weight to 100%. Like, really, if the best thing you do is film yourself, because 9 times out of 10, no one knows that their form is slipping until they watch their sets back. Film your set. If you're right at the top of a rep range of like 8 to 10, you're doing 10 reps at a specific weight. Then, as you go up, especially in lateral raises where the weight is like only 2 kilos heavier, but that feels like an absolute metric shit ton. What you then want to do is you could sacrifice 10% of your form to be able to get that weight moving to 8 reps at the bottom of the rep range and stay at 8 until you can do 8 to 100%. Then move up to 9 and 10. And again, when you're ready at 10, film your set. Is it good? Is it perfect? Cool. Go a bit heavier. Sacrifice 10. I would even say maybe up to 20% of your form to get 8, and then wait until you can do that for 100% as well. So, you know, you're never going to keep your form 100% when you push your weight completely, but it should only be a 10% drop, you know?
Yeah, like you mentioned, knowing sort of like the extent as to what your body can do and when the right time to progressively overload is. Certain people have this thought process of like, oh, I did this last week, which means I have to go up this week. And it's like, not necessarily, because you could do like 10 reps of the weight you did last week, do 2 reps of something heavier, and then, like you mentioned, have really poor form and not connect with the muscle at all. So perfect the weight and then go up.
Yeah, man. Yeah, 100%. 100%. That was
Definitely.
my chair, by the way. I wasn't farting. That was my chair.
Sure about
You know, low key, I'm not gonna lie. Every time I sort of lean back and there is that sort of creak, especially when I'm like in a consultation call or something, I do feel like this inherent need to be like, by the way, that was my chair.
I feel like if you do that though, it's kind of like,
yeah, then it's conspicuous, isn't it? They're like,
Yeah.
they're like, actually, is he just letting one go on a phone call with me?
It's just character
like,
building.
It's not even fucking quiet as well. This chair, like, is like loud, you know, and it's quite a crackly noise. So I would assume if they thought it was me, dude, that they'd assume I have severe bowel issues.
Potentially, mate. Potentially. Is there anything you wanted to touch on before we round up tonight's episode, man?
No, bro, I'm all good. I'm all good, man. I'm actually gonna shoot off home now. You're gonna go and get ready for your holiday, which would be lovely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, bro. And yeah, you deserve to have a breakaway, mate. So go and enjoy your breakaway. You've been working really hard.
I think this is the first breakaway I've had since my 22nd. No, yeah, my 22nd birthday. Yeah. So it's nice. It's gonna be nice.
Jake is 22 years and 2 months old.
Yeah. Brilliant. Cheers.
All right. So basically 2 months ago.
Yeah. Went on a month cruise.
yeah.
No,
It's like me on like
no.
January the 29th being like, oh, you know, I haven't had a holiday since I was 30. You're like, Lewis, bro, that was 2 days ago.
Yeah, what the fuck are you on about?
Yeah,
No, it's been some time. So yeah, I cannot wait to just sort of embrace the fresh air of Scotland. You get out there,
sounds great.
you know, and just chill out, man. But
Yeah, man.
But yeah. So yeah, that's gonna
Awesome.
be fun. So gonna love you and leave you for a week, mate. I'm actually kind of upset, kind of stressing.
You'll be fine.
Lewis for
You'll
a whole
make
week,
it.
man. A whole
You'll
week.
make
That's
it.
mental.
You'll make it, bro. Just remember, anytime you see a shooting star, just think of me. Yeah.
Oh well, I always do. Anytime I see anything, it
Make a
reminds me
wish
of
on
you
a
somehow.
star, and I'll be there, brother.
That's really cool.
I'll give you a Dear John analogy. Yeah, I'll give you a Dear John analogy. When you look up at the sky and you see the moon, just know that is the same moon that I also see. So we're technically together, but not together, but together.
But together. That's really cute. Thank you. I love that. I'm going to take that with me when we leave tomorrow.
No worries.
I'm
No worries, dude.
Crying on the way out there.
Cool. Remember, when you see the sun, don't stare into it because it will blind you.
Thank you, mate.
It's like Dear John, but like for absolute
really obvious shit.
Yeah, just like the romantic speech. When you look up at the sky and you see the sun, remember, don't look into the sun because it will hurt your eyesight. Oh, John.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Oh dear, bro. Right, listen, I'm gonna let you go. Have a lovely, lovely holiday, bro. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you very much for tuning in this evening, guys. We hope you have a lovely rest of your week, a lovely rest of have a lovely weekend as well. In terms of the Monday podcast, what's going on? What's happening?
Whoa, I don't know, bro. I've got to figure that one out.
We'll keep the people updated. It's fine. It's all good. But until then, I will see you in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, see you guys later.
See you later, guys. Have a lovely rest of your weekend, and speak to you soon.
See you later, guys.